Hello, everybody. Welcome to Inside the Booth. I am Dan the Law. Roar.
I'm dreaming Tabitha. Rawr.
Woo. I don't know. Welcome tonight. We are obviously live, and
If you
we,
didn't know.
if you didn't notice, and we're going to be reviewing some interesting movie. It was an awesome movie. No.
Some
Some
people maybe.
this you hear a lot about it on Twitter on how woke
Hmm.
it is. It has some woke moments, not too many, just because they're like they share the woke and then they're like, let's move on. It's
Let's
it's
let's keep
let's move on. Let's just pretend we didn't say that, but let's keep it in the movie anyways. So dumb. It's obviously if you didn't see our thumbnail, it's Peter Pan and Wendy.
mm-hmm.
And I do have a question. Is this movie about Peter Pan or Wendy?
That
Or is it about Hook?
is the
This movie,
ultimate
yeah,
question, Dan.
this movie doesn't seem like it doesn't know what it wants to be.
Yes, okay. I wasn't sure when we were gonna get to that, when it was gonna come up,
let's
but I was just
let's just do
like,
it now.
I didn't know if it was going to come up in the plot, whatever. It's just like in the acting. I didn't know when it was going to pop up and rear its ugly head, but it needs to be said. Who is
Yeah,
the focus of this film?
yeah, exactly. Hey,
Like
Mrs.
who?
R2.
Hey, Mrs.
Yeah,
R2.
and
Um,
Phil. And Uncle Mike. Sorry.
you know, you
Yeah,
you would think it would be about Peter Pan, but you'd be wrong. So then you start
yeah.
getting the impression that this is all about Wendy, but about maybe a little more than halfway through, you'd be wrong again. And then you start thinking, oh, it's like a redemption story for Hook, but you'd be wrong
Yeah, exactly.
one more
You
time
would
because
be wrong.
3 is a magic number.
That's it. That's it.
Mrs. R2 says, I haven't watched it yet. Is it worth it? Well, we're gonna let you know in tonight's show, Bo
Yeah.
Shizzle. And then of course you need to make up your own mind, It's one of those things we're gonna be comparing. I feel like we're gonna compare this movie to a lot of the different Peter Pan films that have been made. So
Yes. Yes.
there's actually I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I did some of my own research here, and like many of the Peter Pan films, they cherry pick from the cartoon, which is of course based on a novel, which is actually titled Peter Pan and Wendy.
Right. Now,
And
question is, why didn't Disney do their famous take the cartoon and just make it into a live action adaptation? Why didn't they do that?
well, in many
At
ways,
least
it
it would have
seems
been
like they
better.
were trying to draw from the book, but at the same time, they were trying to draw from the cartoon. But at the same time, see, it's the perfect three, but you'd be
Yeah.
wrong if you thought they were trying to draw from the book. And then if you
Yeah.
would be wrong if you thought they were trying to draw from the animated 1953 animated movie. And then you would be wrong if they were solely trying to just make up their own stuff.
And you'd be
So,
wrong if you thought that
oh,
they were trying to member berry everything from the movie Hook.
well, that's
Even
what
though
I'm
there is
saying.
a
Like
lot, there's a lot.
they were trying to grasp from a lot of different Peter Pan, except
Yeah,
for maybe the theater version with our girl over there. I forget what her name is, but
right. Now this is what I thought. I was like, okay, these people must have thought that all the adaptations of Peter Pan were not that great. Hugh Jackman, he's a great actor, but he wasn't a good
he was wrong
yeah,
for
he
the.
was he wasn't even Hook. He was a Blackbeard with a goatee instead of a beard. It was so weird. Anyways, and all these other adaptations, and they're like, well, all these adaptations just kind of flopped, except for Hook.
Actually, from what I heard, the Peter Pan movie that had that cute little heartthrob that everybody steamed over back in, what was it, like 2001 or something like that?
Even that one,
Apparently
that
that
one
was pretty good. I've never
that
seen
was
it, but
decent.
I
Yeah, that was a
I,
decent one.
I remember people being, especially all the girls being all on Twitter about it. It got a 6.8 out of 10, which isn't too bad, but um especially compared to this movie. This movie, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. This movie got a 4.4 out of 10 on IMDb. It's been out for
Interesting. I wonder what Rotten Tomatoes gave it.
I think it's 40% viewer critique and like 60% professional critique, or however that works.
Oh, even the professionals didn't like it that much. Now that's interesting.
More than the audience or something like
Right, more than the audience, right?
that.
Man, this movie was a mess.
So if we go ahead and go into it, if I might, Dan, I'm just going to go ahead and pop up the wherever it might be. I can't even find it. We've got so many cool things. So just bringing up the plot like we do over here, you know, we go through our categories. We're already just kind of giving you a synopsis of some of the stuff we're about to say before we go through this. But the plot is like,
let me get my notes out.
Just guys. Dan took notes.
I did. I took notes because I was a little bit on the furious side.
So I don't know if this is going to turn into another Wakanda Forever fiasco. If you guys didn't watch that review, Dan didn't let me get 2 words in edgewise. I swear.
I'll let you get something in. I will. I promise.
I tried. He would not let me. Dan was having a time. And then I just sat back and thought, what do I add to this? But so like we've already stated, this movie, for me personally, I should say, had a lot of potential in different areas, but you couldn't understand which route they were trying to go. So like we said, was this movie about Peter Pan? Was it about Peter Pan and Wendy? Was it just about Wendy? Or was it about Hook? Was it about Peter Pan and Hook? We don't know. To this day, legend says that to this day, people still don't know who this movie's really about. And which is sad because, so like Phil had mentioned in the chat, that they were trying, I know a lot of people are sick of it, but I thought it was kind of a neat concept a little bit where Peter Pan and Hook actually knew each other when Hook was a child and that Peter just never grew up. And
just because Hook left and Peter stayed.
Right. Hook left, Peter stayed, and they really portray Peter as, I don't know where to go because there are so many things here. But I'm trying to focus. I'm trying to, unlike Disney,
good guy.
I'm trying to stay focused. But maybe we should just back up a little bit. So the plot is, if you're not familiar with Peter Pan, or are you living in the jungles of Vietnam? But anyway, you know, it's a story about these children, the darling children, and they don't really want to grow up, especially Wendy. She's going to be sent off to boarding school, and her mom's trying to prepare her for that because she's going to become a lady and all that stuff. And Wendy wants to stay a child. She doesn't want to take on those responsibilities. Peter then comes into their house because he's been seeking for her, waiting for her to say the magic words, whatever those were, and knows her name.
He was a peeping Tom. He was a stalker. He was everything. Plus, he's 50 years old.
Let's not forget that there was probably about 1 billion other children that didn't want to grow up either. But somehow we got to focus on Wendy. But anyway, she's like, how do you know my name? Your mom says it all the time. That's creepy.
Creep. 50-year-old creep peeping Tom stalker.
But so then he convinces the kids to go, which is pretty easy to do because they all want to go on an adventure. It's pretty fast paced, I feel, in the beginning. They end up at Neverland, get shot at by pirates. They get separated.
That scene where they get shot at was kind of pointless to even.
They should have been obliterated too at that range.
Like they should have did it like a little later on or something. I don't know.
But the kids get separated. Peter disappears. Wendy ends up with the lost indigenous people because they're not boys, you know. And
the lost boys.
They're the lost people.
But you're not boys. Oh, don't worry about it. Just get
what
over
does it matter?
And then they stopped talking about it like it never happened.
Yeah,
they never said it.
Which maybe
it's
that's
like
the
Disney
best way
was
to
like,
go.
Let's throw it in there and not focus on it too much because, you know, we know everybody's going to get mad because they're not boys in the Lost Boys.
So then Wendy sees her brothers being captured by pirates. And they're like, oh, they're going to not sacrifice them, but they're going to execute them. We've got to go down to Skull Rock. So they go there. Wendy and Tiger Lily, try to do their thing. Peter pops out of nowhere and tries to save the day, but Wendy and Tiger Lily end up and Tinkerbell all kind of gang up and save the boys anyway, while Peter does his stuff with Hook. And then she gets upset with him and slaps him in the face, which in my opinion, rightly deserved, and gives him a lecture about how he's not as special as he thinks he is. And that, of course, crushes him. Because he's like, I'm Peter Pan. I don't need no man, is essentially what happened. I'm just trying to speed through this really quickly. They all have a moment. See, and this is the thing too. So then they all have this moment when they're talking to Wendy because Peter's upset with her because he thought she would be his friend. And she's like, basically, she's so funny because she's basically telling Peter, you need to grow up. But the boys, the lost indigenous people, start realizing that they too miss their mothers. Peter tries to convince them that it's stupid to miss your mother, and then you end up finding
like he was
out
being a jerk. Don't miss your mommy.
You find out,
baby.
You find out then that Hook used to be one of the lost boys, but he started missing his mom too. So Peter Pan bullied him and exiled him from the island. Hook never found his mom, came back years later, and so he and Peter have been at odds because, and they say this in the film, the reason that they're at odds, not just because Peter cut off his hand, exiled him, was a horrible friend, but because things in Neverland never change. And so it would be boring if they didn't just bicker and fight back and forth. They literally say that in the movie, which is stupid.
I don't like this adventure.
So, and then just it kind of wraps up with the fact that, all of a sudden Peter realizes that he needs friends. Wendy turns into Captain Marvel, and then you kind of have your heartstrings pulled for Hook, only for him to be, a horrible person at the end. Well, actually, a horrible person almost at the end. You think he might die, but then he comes back and kind of gives Peter, a wink in the sky, like, I'll be back because this is what we do in Neverland. And Peter takes
we're best friends again or something.
Best rivals or something like that. Yeah. And then Peter takes the darling children and the lost indigenous people back to London and drops them off. Bob's your uncle. That's the movie. So it's like, where do you start? Like there's
okay. Yeah. This movie, this movie has a lot of those member berries like I was talking about. By the way, I made a clip just for member berries. Here we go.
Remember this? 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 Remember this?
I mean, that's pretty much what Disney has been doing the past couple of years and what they're continuing to do with these live action films that nobody's asked for.
Right. And you know what I don't like about this, these member berries, is a lot of them are not from Disney itself. It's from other movies of Peter Pan.
Spin-off Peter, yeah.
Mainly, I saw mainly the movie Hook in a lot of the member berries. Remember this, the music of this beautiful movie was basically John Williams' music from Hook. Let me see here.
I heard it from the animated, like Dan and I were talking a little bit before. In the first opening scene, the ending of the music was like music from the animated movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, I believe they used some of that, but there was a lot of that one special sound that John Williams used throughout Hook. That it seems like they took a lot of it.
Since I've seen it.
Yeah, you should watch it again because you'll hear it. You'll be like,
good movie.
Oh, that's what Dan was talking about.
Yeah.
Especially in the adventure parts when they're fighting.
Or I'd be like, this doesn't make any sense. Dan's crazy.
You could be like that too. Remember when what is Robin Williams? Peter Pan's daughter sang that lullaby right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and it could be heard around all of Neverland, and it made everybody feel like, oh, so sweet, you know.
Okay.
They
Was
did
that
the
what Wendy sung or?
yeah, she sang
Okay.
I don't know if it was that exact lullaby, but it was a lullaby where everybody heard it, and Captain Hook goes, oh, you know, like my mommy, you know, or why
Right.
does that
Yeah, I
remind
was
me of
getting Superman
something, you know?
versus Batman vibes from that. I was just waiting for somebody to say Martha. Yeah.
And then and remember this in Hook when he heard the tick tocking of that little watch, and Hook was like, "Let me break it." Oh, same thing here. Oh,
Well, but I mean
tick-tock,
that
you
makes
hear that?
sense.
You
I
hear
mean
that?
that only makes sense. I think that goes
It
along
kind
with
of makes
the
sense, but the way they did it is
Oh.
almost exactly how they did it in the movie Hook. It's
Oh.
like, hey, remember Hook?
That's pretty bad
that
then.
that beautiful movie Hook that everybody loves.
Go away.
Let's do it here, just a little different. Oh my gosh.
Continue on.
Yeah. You got a little fly flying around.
I do. I can't handle it. Got it.
So I guess getting back to the I guess let's get back to, because I have a lot to say. Let's get back to just the categories for now. And let's
we'll detour along.
yeah, I will
Right.
detour
So-
along the way.
This okay, I know people are tired of the redemption story for our villains. I get that. Totally get that. But I honestly thought that
This is funny. Phil said the 2001 Pan movie, the moment where I do believe in fairies. I remember that part.
hey, I love that line because when we go to the
Looked
Renaissance
amazing.
Fair, that's like the cheer and the chant of the whole Renaissance Fair. I do believe in
Yeah.
fairies. I do. Hey, Dale.
What's up, Dale? How are you?
We're upset.
Yes, we are upset.
We're upset.
Another member berry is the whole Tinkerbell comes at the end of the movie, and she says to Wendy, "Thank you for hearing me," or "Thank you for listening," something like that, right? It totally reminded me of at the end.
Did
of
she
Hook.
speak at the end?
Yes, right at the end. You don't remember that?
I
huh?
didn't hear
It
that.
reminded me totally of Hook right at the end when Peter Pan goes, "Thank you for believing in me." You know, it had that vibe. It was like, boom, that vibe was right there. And I'm like, what the heck?
You know,
Oh,
that doesn't really
why?
make much sense. It's like a weird parallel because, you know, Wendy
Exactly.
she couldn't understand Tinkerbell in this film. She couldn't understand Tinkerbell because basically she didn't believe enough or something like that. She was too mature. But, you know, obviously having these experiences would make her believe more. But the problem is that here's where you've kind of got your oxymoron, is that while she's having all these experiences, of course she would believe more, but by the end of the movie she's more mature than what she was in the beginning, so she really technically shouldn't have hurt her anyway.
Right, exactly.
I liked, okay, so I was really intrigued when they wrote that name on the door and it says James's room, but James was crossed out and it said who's Peter, and it was like, who's James? And you find out that Captain Hook, of course they named him James, the most common English name you could ever think of during that time.
Well, because again, in the movie Hook, Captain James
Hook. And so that was really, I was taken by surprise with this turn of events when you find out, and I kind of liked it because it was deep and dark.
That was the moment that I was like, oh, this movie's finally becoming its own movie.
Yes,
it's not copying anything, right, at that moment,
and
then all of a sudden it like changes again.
Yeah, because it honestly made Hook, for me, it made him a little darker, a little grittier, because he was a little bit of a buffoon. I honestly we'll talk about that when we get to acting, but he
right, which the buffoon thing was probably the Disney cartoon version. You know,
yeah,
like
but then they just started.
that.
That's again, this is another decision where they couldn't figure out their stories, their character's character and art, because you know he kind of was a buffoon when you first see him, and then this movie starts getting kind of gritty and a little bit dark, and then all of a sudden it becomes buffoonery again. And so it totally ruined the manipulation of feels that I had that I was having in a good way for for Hook. And then they just made him weird again. And I thought that was so sad. And so the plot, I'm just gonna put it down. The plot is horrible. It had potential in 4 different ways. And that's not a good thing when your plot has no plot.
Yes.
So I give it a 0 because that's stupid. This is Disney, for crying out loud.
Yeah, they're supposed to be awesome writers.
They're supposed to be
awesome,
wizards at this stuff.
Exactly, with lots of money, so they could get the best script.
The best
Did
writers.
nobody? This is what this is something I wrote down about the writing. My 6-year-old kid could write this movie. The first beginning parts of the movie definitely was written by a 6-year-old. Like it was like a dad going, "Okay, son, what do you want to see in a Hook movie?" And the kid's telling him, and he's writing it down. Come on, I mean, and then it gets to where, like you said, in the middle where it starts to get grittier. It looks like it's becoming its own movie. Then all of a sudden, somebody older started writing, and then all of a sudden, a 6-year-old came back toward the end. It was like, oh, this would be cool. That would be cool. So yeah. So that is that. And you're right. I do not give it a point either. Wonderful. Beautiful.
I just hate that
storytelling.
It had so much potential. Like I wasn't trying to look for a movie that turned Hook into a good guy. I like the idea because, I mean, any kind of villain you can think of, whether in the real world or in a fictitious world, we don't start out as bad people. Something happens that turns us bad. So knowing what could have made Hook bad, I found really intriguing. I wasn't looking for it to redeem Hook. I was just more of like, oh, I see. All right. And it got really gritty when you find out that Peter Pan's the one that chopped off his hand and fed it to the Croc. And
exactly. And they had, exactly.
But, okay, then going into what would be our next topic is the acting. I was saying with Hook, he did not have this grand entrance like he should have.
No, it's not like the commercial. The trailer showed he comes out of the darkness.
The darkness.
Like, Peter Pan, where are you?
Wendy, Moira, Angela, darling.
Right.
Like really creepy and everything. And you realize they spliced that together from 2 different scenes.
Right, exactly. And it's so this movie, just like before I said, they didn't know what they want to do with this movie.
Nobody had a good entrance. Not a single person.
And the acting was so, I would have to say, subpar. It wasn't even that good because the writing was bad, and because it's like the movie doesn't know. Am I supposed to be the cartoon? Am I supposed to be copying the movie Hook? Am I supposed to be copying this other movie? Am I supposed to be my own movie? Is it supposed to be dark, or is it supposed to be happy? It's like,
have Jude Law. Jude Law knows how to act, and for what he had, he did a good job. But it didn't make sense. So all right, so we have the darling children, and we all know what's going to happen, so it's not necessarily that special.
Right.
They didn't do it. I mean, they're kids. They didn't do a bad job of it.
Right. The beginning part was like the cartoon almost, where he comes in, and he's like, woo, and they fly out the window. And
so the kids don't have a special entrance. Now, okay, the only person that had a really awesome entrance, and where it actually wasn't awesome, was a surprise. It was a horrible entrance, but it was a pleasant surprise, was Alan Tudyk when I saw he was the dad. But that's a horrible part for him to play because he didn't even get to make any kind of weird noises. But so Peter shows up out of the blue. I mean, it wasn't even interesting. I was like,
he wasn't even crying. He wasn't even saying,
he wasn't
"Oh, my
mysterious.
Shadows." Yeah, exactly. He was just like
a creep. He just kind of came in with such arrogance, and it was just bizarre the way that they didn't even allude to him. It was just like he was there.
Right.
So that was weird. And then, of course, you've got
Marie said it the right way. Maybe they switched writers and or directors multiple times during production, kind of like a lot of movies do. Yes, that could have been it. We'll give him that. That's the only explanation I can think of.
Oh, I don't know. We don't have. I just see that screenplay by 2 different people, David Lowery and Toby Halbrooks. And directed by David Lowery. So I don't know.
One of those are the
You
asked
messed
their
up, AA
6-year-old.
Ron.
Yeah. One of those asked their 6-year-old how to write a movie.
So then Hook has this subpar entrance, which is so sad. Like he should have had some
Oh, my
kind of
goodness. He
flaming
should have had
glory. Like
he
there was
should've.
no hat, no feather. His costume isn't even really bold. And it just
Right. I mean, it was a nice costume, but it
was
wasn't.
okay.
It wasn't like, you know, like
flamboyant or anything.
right. It wasn't like boom. In
There
your
was
face.
nothing about
I
his
think it's
character
because
that
I
made
think it's
him
because they used the blue coat on him in the beginning of the movie, which really kind of
mellows him.
Yeah, and it's like, wait a minute, a blue coat?
Yeah.
Hook has red.
I
red
mean,
and
Smee wasn't interesting. Mr. Crocodile was not interesting. The Lost Boys, the Indigenous Lost People didn't have a really interesting. Okay, and I'd like to point something out here. So I do appreciate and kudos to the fact that Disney had, I believe it was Stead, for the first time ever, they had a person with Down syndrome being in this movie. Fantastic, wonderful, that's great.
Yep.
The thing is that there was some hype about it. Like he was supposed to be like, has his first lead Down syndrome character. The dude was only in like 5 shots.
Right.
Lead character. But and what he did, he was fine at. But I think my problem here is that if you're gonna like put that out there, then he deserves a bigger spot. Like he did good he was one of the lost kids. He did good in the parts that he had. Perfectly fine. Kids. But it wasn't like it was special. Okay? Right. Like it wasn't like it was special. So it's almost like I'm not trying to be mean here, okay? But this was basically like, oh, we have a handicapped kid. Let's include him to make him feel good. Versus if he would have been like out there and we gave a Down syndrome kid a part in this movie versus, well, we gave a Down syndrome kid a part in this movie. You know what? When you pick the lesser person to play on your basketball team because you want them to feel good about themselves, that's what I felt like they did with this kid. And I am so thrilled for him to have this opportunity. It doesn't take away from the fact that actually he was one of the best actors on this thing. I thought he was great. But it just like, I don't know. I feel like there was a bigger deal made about it than there should have been if they're going to give somebody a role like that has this disability, which again, he did a fantastic job. So I don't even know what the problem was.
I didn't even know it was hype about it because I didn't really watch too much stuff about this movie, except for people saying, like the whole woke stuff, oh, there's girls in the Lost Boys. Why is that? Yeah, but still, it's just like, and Disney didn't even focus on that like they like to focus on stuff like that.
And maybe that was like, a choice, like
it was
maybe...
like, oh yeah, we're just not all Lost Boys. That's it. Get over it. Whatever. And then that was it.
And they did. And I guess I appreciate that. But
right. You didn't think about it much afterwards, except for like a couple of shots where they're in there going, hey, and then that's about it. It's like the Lost Kids are not even in this movie, hardly. They're really not.
Yeah.
They didn't show too many of those girls that were, Lost Boys.
Well, because they did a pretty good job of making them look like boys.
Yeah,
you couldn't really tell one from the
yeah. That's true. And they were the twins.
Right. Yeah. You had more of an inkling that the twins were girls because they had longer hair.
Right.
But
by the way, the twin thing I think came from the movie Hook again.
No, there were twins in the animated series.
Oh, was there? Okay. I don't remember. I need to watch that.
I think they were raccoons or something like that.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Okay. Yep. Totally right.
But yeah, I just wrote down Captain Hook's entrance was underwhelming. And then the kid who plays as Peter Pan, I don't
know if I even liked it.
So I get the vibe that he's not necessarily a bad actor, but this was not his role.
No.
You know how sometimes you give good actors bad roles, and this for me was definitely one. Has nothing to do with the fact that he's like Pakistani or whatever. Like he's British, but you know what I'm saying? Has nothing to do with his skin color, has nothing to do with his ethnicity, whatever the case might be, is that I just don't think that this was the role for, I believe his name is Andrew Maloney. I think that's his name. I just don't think this was his Alexander Maloney. I don't think this was his role. I think he'd be better suited for something else, because I could tell that he kind of has some wit, some charm about him, but he was such a douchebag in this movie.
Yeah, he was.
Like Peter Pan was a horrible person in this movie, and I don't know. I personally feel like they didn't give that kid I don't think he should have been Peter Pan, because I think he has his capabilities are somewhere else. His talents are for other roles. Not this was horrible. The girl who did Wendy, I think she did a good job as this particular Wendy. I just wasn't very fond of this particular Wendy. Now the girl who played as Tiger Lily, kudos, great job.
Yeah, she did a good job. Yeah,
she did a great job.
See, GilkMan. What's up, GilkMan? Anyways,
I agree with you, GilkMan. I haven't gotten to my good parts yet.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to my worst parts yet. No, I think I have. I think the reason why you like this, I'll show you why.
Remember this? 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 Remember this?
I mean, some people might genuinely have enjoyed this. Okay. I mean, that kind of would take me into, I don't know if we're ready to go into cinematography yet, but
it was horrendous. Oh my goodness.
So I guess we're ready then.
Okay, you have some normal parts in this movie, right?
Yeah.
Which they're good. It's lighted, it's lit well and everything. But why did they choose the
I agree.
For the cinematography, why did they choose a fisheye lens when they're flying?
You noticed this too? Okay.
Was this close to the camera? You know?
Okay. They did not do any favors. That poor kid who played as Peter Pan, he was sitting there in one shot. He's just kind of sitting there all cutesy, right? And they put that lens, and his nose just looked huge, and everything was bold out. I'm like, there were several shots like that. I'm like, I can't be the only one who's noticing.
Who had the GoPro? They should have said no GoPro on this. GoPros are of the past, everybody.
I like GilkMan here. Same. I had Dan's like, let me show you this clip. It's so funny. And I'm like, I don't know what this is from. Apparently it's from Mad Max.
Beyond Thunderdome. You guys, if you haven't seen that movie, go watch it. That's a good movie. Anyways.
Yeah, I agree with you, GilkMan. I don't think this is. I'm going to get into that kind of here in the cinematography. I don't think it's the worst thing that Disney has produced, but it does have its issues.
It's not bad. It's just too much member berries. It's like throwing member berries in your face from other movies, and you're like,
Dan, I don't know.
That's what made me upset, because I wanted more of a.
Dan, you can't have not have member berries on a movie based on a book. Now it's different with like The Mandalorian is a branch off of Star Wars, right? But it's its own thing. So naturally, if they bring in some reference from the previous films, it's going to be member berries. There are actually no member berries in this film because it's based off of films based off of a movie.
Well, I understand that, but the member berries for me, because I love the movie Hook. But
that doesn't make it a member berry.
Maybe it's not a member berry, but they're just throwing in things to say, hey, remember the movie Hook? Well, if you liked Hook, you'll like this, because we're gonna throw everything.
Because if you remember, Hook is loosely based off of a book.
I know that, but they just some of the shots, some of the scenes, some of the a lot of the music, the way they compose the music, a lot of that's from the movie Hook, and not that it's bad. It's just that I don't want that. I wanted something different,
But you can't have something different if it's based.
Why can't I have something different if they're gonna say we're making a new Hook? I mean, why did they? Well, they're making a new Peter Pan movie. Why didn't they just do this? Go, hey, let's do Jake and the Pirates and make that a live
Now
action.
that would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been cool because it would be different. It wouldn't be exactly the same. It wouldn't be taking things from other movies. It would be Disney.
But it
Disney,
would
they
because
made up.
it's a branch off of Peter Pan.
Well, I understand that, but it's still like Disney made it, though. You know, I mean, I would have rather have seen more of the Disney Peter Pan cartoon in this movie than the movie Hook, because that movie Hook was that was my childhood. I don't want to see that in something else, you know. He says it was not based on that.
So I was trying to tell him, man, like the opening music, it literally ends with the same kind of soundtrack from the animated cartoon.
I understand, but some of the sounds, I'm telling you, watch Hook again, and you'll hear the John Williams sound.
Do you think that maybe John Williams just got it from the animated cartoon?
Maybe they did. Maybe he did, but still, I don't know.
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but it's hard to make a brand new movie about a character that's based off of a book.
I get that, but I liked where they were going with the whole friends thing.
Yes,
I wish there was more of that. I liked that part of it. I wanted more of that.
Yeah, I like that too. And then they magically make up at the end, and it's just like that was stupid. They should have been like hardcore, you know, knife to the gut. But so the CGI was a little plasticky for me too. When they put that lady there, what was her name? Let me have a look here. What was her name? Yara Shahidi, I believe. So it was our new Tinkerbell.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job with her.
She looked.
She didn't even look like she was in the shot.
Yeah, so don't get us wrong, guys. Like we've said this before in our trailer reaction. As a fairy, the lady looks fantastic. She's so cute and beautiful. She looks fantastic. She looked horribly rendered in the movie.
Yeah.
What they should have just done a whole Julia Roberts thing from Hook and just plastered her in there. That would have looked so much better than what they did to this poor gal.
Exactly.
No, Phil, it was supposed to be it was taking happy thoughts and pixie dust is what it took to fly.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And Hook, that's how Peter flew. Yeah, you had to, all that stuff. You had to believe. Yeah, we already talked about the strange lens that bowed the edges. Who made that decision? It really ruined the beautiful shots in the beginning of the island and everything like that.
It even ruined the whole flying shots. I mean, why get in their faces and watch the? I don't know. That's the way it was. It reminded me. You remember the movie Robin Hood with Kevin Costner? Have you seen that?
It's been a while, yeah.
It reminded me of that camera angle that they would like get into their faces, and it was weird. It was like just a weird.
It was a weird
shot.
choice. I don't know how it added to it at all.
Yeah, it didn't add at all. And so it's like they took that but made it into a GoPro, and it was like, let's just get as close as we can.
GilkMan is coming for you tonight, man. Like, look at that. He is like, Dan, you're so wrong. I'm sorry. I think you're an okay guy, but you're so wrong.
I know.
Okay. I honestly, in the beginning, I wasn't sure how the vibe was going to be, how childish. So I don't know if Dan's I don't know if you've seen Harry Potter, but I tell you what, in the beginning of this movie, probably the first 12, 15 minutes, I got strong by the coloring and everything. You know, Disney has this, now they have this standard for how they colorize everything. And a lot of movies do, but Disney has a particular one. But something about it was a little bit different, that I got the impression this would be something of a darker movie in theme, just because of the way they colored everything. And it really reminded me of like Order of the Phoenix, Goblet of Fire kind of thing. Chad, I don't know if you saw those movies and if you watched Peter and Wendy, but maybe you agree or I'm wrong, but that's where I got the vibe. And I'm like, well, this is kind of nice that it's a little different than Pirates of the Caribbean or something like that, right?
Right.
And I really, but So that was interesting. I liked that because even when we got the shots of the island, when they finally landed after being, distorted, that this looked a little bit more mature of a film. Not
Right.
like adult, but more of like young adult, teenager kind of thing. And I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting. I kind of like this. This is different. Kind of like what you're talking about. It was different. It wasn't just this magical, whimsical, whatever. This felt like it's having some grit to it. But then it just kept going. And it was like, you totally forgot about the coloring. You totally forgot about everything because you're just like, what's happening?
Yeah, exactly.
I am a little disappointed that there were no mermaids.
There were. You saw them swimming in the ocean, looking
I thought
up
those would
with that weird butt lens again.
I thought they were
when you're looking down-
dolphins. I didn't even recognize them as mermaids. I thought they were dolphins.
Well, the thing is about it is that was the only shot of them. So after that, you won't see him again. So it's like, did I see mermaids?
Okay, GilkMan, I gotta disagree with you here because again, so it wasn't like it was terrible, but I didn't think it was rendered very well. And
I think it was too big.
I think it was too big.
Yeah.
The other thing is that it was kind of goofy looking for, again, a movie that was struggling to have a little bit more grit to it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I was surprised
they did do that iconic shot where in the cartoon the gator and
where he's standing on the
going and it's like anyways, but
the other thing is too, and I know I'm gonna be nitpicky about this here, but
I'm very nitpicky about this
in the cartoon, this crocodile apparently is a saltwater crocodile, and we're okay with that. But for some reason in this movie we are not. He was only able to stay in that little cave area, flooded with salt water, I might add. But as soon as they got outside of the cave, somehow there was this barrier. I don't know if the force was in play or what the case might have been, but for some reason the crocodile.
Right, you would think the crocodile was all over the ocean when they fell in, and you're like, oh, did they drown? What happened to them? I thought maybe the crocodile's gonna eat them all. But. Nothing. No explanation of what happened to those people, except for Captain Hook and Smee come popping out of the water. Oh, we're alive! Whoa!
Which by the end of the movie, actually in the book, they're not supposed to have lived. The croc was supposed to have eaten them. There's quite a few differences in the movie versus, of course, in the book. Like Peter Pan was supposed to be really mean and obnoxious, and he was in this movie. But he was not cutesy obnoxious or like this dude was just punk. I didn't like him at all. I did not like him. And I think the other thing is too, and it's kind of backtracking a little bit, but it's like in the book, it never really specifies, apparently, how old Peter Pan is, right? But there is an indication of it in the book because it says that he had all of his first teeth, meaning that he couldn't have been more than 7 years old. But they say later on in the book, there are some inclinations that he is older, that he appears older. So there's, but the thing is, this guy is 16. Okay.
Oh, okay.
In Victorian setting England, he is a man at this point.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And if you think about it, especially with the whole Hook, his friend, and they've been there for a long time already, you realize that, because maybe your physical appearance can't change, but definitely your brain develops every day. So he must have had like an older brain, he must have been there thinking about things.
Well, this is going to go into kind of like that Twilight conflict, because it's like that's what kind of makes it creepy when you get older and you reflect, is the fact that Edward is supposed to be like 187 years old, but somehow still maintained the maturity of a 21-year-old.
Okay.
Well, that's stupid.
Yeah, that is stupid.
And creepy.
Yeah.
So you basically have, you've got like this 50-year-old in a 16-year-old body checking up on women.
Stalking little girls.
And I know we're kind of taking this to extreme on a fantasy movie, but still, it's just...
Yeah.
Some
It's
something's just
creepy,
better off
I
in a
think.
book, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I see a film, I don't judge a film on technical aspect because I don't know enough to make a fair review. Right. I understand. You know, GilkMan, I used to be one of you. And then I joined Inside the Booth, and it's ruined all my TV watching experiences.
Experiences.
Also, I want to say that Peter's costume sucked.
It did. It
It
did.
looked so theatrical.
From far
like
away, it almost
Peter.
looks okay, right? From far away, it looks okay with the silhouette because it looks like it might be goofy or something. And then, like when they get close-up shots with it, it looks like it's just like a piece of green cloth, and it's just.
It looked horrible. Though 2001, like I think they should have gone more with that. You know, I'm not saying he needed to be half naked, but like it looked more like he was covered in leaves and stitched together. You know, that would make more sense. And so, I just didn't like this costume.
Well, like in the movie Hook, Robin Williams' costume that had the leaves and stuff. that was a good costume.
It kind of looked a little cheesy too, Dan. I'm not gonna lie, but
I don't know. But he wore his tights. And by the way, this Peter Pan doesn't have tights. He's got like slim jeans on.
Skinny jeans.
Yeah, skinny jeans. That's what it is.
And even Tinkerbell's outfit, like a lot of the outfits weren't as great as I thought they could be. I didn't mind Tiger Lily so much because it wasn't like in your face indigenous. Right. But it still was. Like you could tell, but it was simplified. It wasn't like it's funny because it's like it wasn't a costume version of indigenous people.
Right.
Yeah.
It was actually
I felt like it was fleshed out pretty well.
It
looked very appropriate. It looked nice. Maybe because she was kind of a low-key character, but she like this movie had some girl power to it for sure. Which was weird. Because again, we don't know. Was this movie about Peter and Wendy, Hook?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Hook and Peter.
This movie didn't know what it wanted to be. I wish they would have stuck to one thing. It kind of followed it through.
So, we've gotten so caught up, Dan. What did you give for acting? By the way, we've already jumped ahead to cinematography.
I'll give. I'm not gonna give it a point.
I'm going to give it a half a point because even though I didn't like the Wendy character, I felt like she did a really good job being Wendy. Jude Law did a good job. It's just that they didn't write him very well.
Right.
Peter was just awful. I didn't like him. I just so that's why I give it
I just think a lot of the acting plus there also with acting comes the writing and the jokes, and I think they all fell a little bit flat with a lot of
thought also like John and Michael were done well. I thought the boys did a really good job. I did like the pirate crew or how they were fighting over the teddy bear.
Yes, I was gonna say that's one of the things I did like was that black guy's like, ooh, look at that vicious bear. You know,
I don't know why
that joke hit, but why is it when like anyone else did jokes, it didn't? It just like kind of fell flat, and it was like that wasn't really the right spot.
Like it was kind of cringy, but then it was kind of cute and funny at the same time. So seeing all these grown men, this movie was terrible.
Rogue, yes, thank you.
It had a few good moments. I haven't mentioned all of them yet. I'm going to do that in my summary. Okay. But okay, so then cinematography. What do we give it?
Those shots were so distracting that I can't think of anything else. So I will say I'm not gonna give it a point. I can't. I can't do it. I mean,
I want to, but I can't. Like I wanted to give it a half a point, but so many of it outweighs in negative that
right.
I don't do well with the number system anyway. But I
guess the only part that I did like was the cave scene. You know, because it was kind of darker.
See, I didn't like the cave scene because it looked so CGI. Like they literally, you could tell.
It did have a lot of CGI.
It was so strong in the CGI and not done well. The only scene that I honestly really like, I would have loved the opening when they were finally landed on Neverland. but because they bowed the edges, those scenes were distorted and ruined for me.
Yeah.
But I really actually liked this. I thought they were
Fisheye.
done well when they were actually in the hideout. Like that was pretty much
Fisheye lens.
it.
And I didn't understand why they had a castle hideout instead of in the trees and in the woods.
It's in the books.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Darn, I need to read.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot I don't know when I watch movies.
I mean, like even with Tinkerbell, like so her character was just weird too, to be honest. Like, was she kind? Was she sweet? Was she evil? Was she mean? Was she jealous? We don't get really any of Tinkerbell's personality from this character, which I feel like if you're going to give a lady this role, especially with all the controversy surrounding this role, you better make sure she gets a darn good job. Like she does a darn good job doing it, and they give her a strong character. She was so wishy-washy. I was waiting for.
They didn't even focus on Tinkerbell. You know, I mean, there was no. I mean, really, there's no focus on like anybody in this movie. It's just like, oh, here's this person.
They couldn't seem to figure out how the characters, except for Wendy, they couldn't figure out who needed to be who, like how these people needed to be.
And that's where
that's a problem.
Keep going to all the time. I think is for this movie.
Badly written. Okay, so we got.
By the way, you see my awesome prop over here. My Hook's hook from my costume I made.
Well, okay, so what did you think of Hook's hook?
It was interesting. It looked like it was made out of a piece of metal or something. Like it wasn't originally. Well, okay, it is made out of a piece of metal. I mean, like it was taken off of a piece of the boat and then kind of made into a hook. You know what I mean?
It looked old. I kind of liked that.
Yeah.
It's Mrs. Cannoli and Cannoli Sasquatch in the house. Hello.
What's up? What's up?
I kind of liked the fact that it wasn't super shiny and brilliant. Right. You know, Dustin Hoffman kind of babied his, right?
Yes.
And then with this movie being somewhat grittier, or at least you would think it would be, it kind of made sense that it was old. But at the same time, it wasn't glamorous like it should have been. Like
a little bit more, yeah.
They really
been a little bit different. Yeah.
They didn't really focus on the fact that he was Captain Hook, right? It was more like Captain Gloomy.
Yeah. Captain, I miss my mommy. and that's another thing. I know GilkMan doesn't like when I say it's like the movie Hook, but in the end of the movie Hook, what does Captain Hook do when the
clock
tower
gator
comes? He goes, I want my mommy, right? You remember that?
Well, but that's kind of a natural inclination. I don't know that they were trying to steal that from Hook so much as they were.
I know, but then he was like, I miss my mommy, and I'm like, so it brought me back to the movie Hook. A lot of these little parts just kept bringing me back to Hook, and not like the cartoon, or not even a lot of the other adaptations. It was mostly the movie Hook. I don't know why. GilkMan disagrees with me, but it probably is.
Well, okay, so you say there's a lot of the references to Hook.
Mm-hmm.
So with our musical score, you say that GilkMan disagrees with you strongly. You say that it's from Hook. He says it's from the animated cartoon. I haven't seen Hook in a hot minute, but I did catch the number of tunes from the original cartoon in this movie. So here we go. This Pan and Wendy movie wasn't necessary. Disney just keeps rehashing their content, and it's not done well. Amen. This is honestly
that's right.
one of the least well thought out movies. Okay, I did say it's not the worst movie that Disney's produced, but I will say it's one of the least well thought out movies produced. Least well produced movies. So the music, okay. Did you notice that the first cannonball was completely silent?
Yes, that cannonball scene.
That was stupid.
That cannonball scene was not necessary in the moment that it showed up.
Well, but what I'm saying, though, the cannonball that hit the mountainside, you heard that. But when they're flying and they're getting the stuff
And then,
ready,
and you don't even hear.
there was
you
no
don't even like a swoosh or
yeah, there was no swoosh.
completely.
Completely,
Like
they must have attached a secret silencer to the cannon.
That's it. That's
For that
what
first
happened.
one. That bothered me because they could have turned that easily into like a roar of thunder or something, but that just seemed really. I know, that it's
Right.
pretty bad
Okay, so
when something that small is so noticeable for myself, and it
right.
bothers me.
Yeah. No, and it's true. I think that whole cannonball scene was forced. It didn't even need to be there. Just because they felt like, oh, we're 15 minutes into the movie, let's put some action. You don't
Yeah.
need a little action in that. I mean, let's just finish going to Neverland, and land and be there, before some fighting happens.
I like what the
I don't know.
critical drinker said. So hilarious when he's got that one scene where the mountain, the tops exploded, and he's like, now I'm no expert on 18th century arms and stuff like that, but he's like, I'm pretty sure that with an impact that close to human bodies, their bodies would have just obliterated into 1,000
Oh
pieces.
yes, you're absolutely right.
And it's like,
They wouldn't have just kind of flew
yeah,
back.
like a big gust of
Whoa,
wind.
yeah, exactly.
It was a freaking cannon. So, okay, but this doesn't make sense again with the grittiness of the movie. So they literally
Yeah.
shoot at children that lands inches from their faces with a cannonball, but Peter gets cut across the chest with a not a knife, but with a sword.
Oh, by the
Falls
way,
about 100 feet and doesn't die.
right, right, and the way he turned around and cut him, it looks like Peter Pan is like 50 feet away. It's like, how the heck did you cut him when
I
you
didn't
look like
know
you're
he
way
did
too
that.
far away?
It
Yeah,
wasn't
it's
until I was like, what's
exactly.
happening? Because
Yeah,
the mood
'cause he went,
shifted.
I'm good at finding, boom, and he went like this, and hello, you weren't even near him, and now he's cut. What happened?
I didn't.
don't
Like
understand.
I said, I didn't realize that. Peter just kind of looked at him like, and then put his hand.
Yeah,
And
and
I was
he
like,
goes,
what's happening? And then I realized, oh, he got cut. That did not translate very well at
no,
all.
it did not. And
Yeah.
it was sad what he said. I like that part where he's like, James, I don't like this adventure, and then he falls. It was sad. It kind of made me feel sad.
I did
A
it
little bit.
because Peter Pan's a
but
tool.
yeah, well, that's true. But
He's a self-righteous, indignant, self-centered creep. The pirate song was fun, but the problem was, now I'm pretty good. I'm pretty well versed and good at understanding a lot of
Sorry.
different accents, primarily the British accents. Pretty good at it. Watch me a lot of the BBC audiobooks. I'm pretty good at it.
I don't think they were in sync when they were singing it together.
That I couldn't
didn't
understand
a
what
word.
they were saying, which just sucks because it was a nice tune. I enjoyed it.
It was a nice tune, yeah.
And I'm like, what are they saying? Like, I am focused. I'm listening. I'm gonna have to put the captions on. What are they saying?
Thinking.
So I mean, so music. I think the music and stuff was good, except for that little flaw there that I noticed with the cannonball and stuff like that. I'll give music a point.
I kind of liked it, but again, because it kept reminding me of other movies, and I was like, why can't you have your own? Why can't you just be different? Why can't this movie just be different? And
We've already discussed why it can't be.
I know. But, I'll give it a half a point, just because I mean, I did like this. I did like the music because it did sound like a different movie, but it didn't look. I don't know. It was weird. This movie was just weird to me.
All right. It's time to move on to this should be good. Our last category, which is the allegory.
Before we get into that, I'm reading my notes and I'm like, okay, I didn't say this. Why was it in the beginning part when I think it was Hook, he fell in the water in the beginning and he comes back up and you see this black stuff running down his face. Why is the hair dye coming out of his hair.
I don't remember that.
Why did they even do that? That was weird. You don't remember that? Because he had like dark hair in the beginning, right? And then he falls into the water because I don't know what happened. I forget what happened because this movie is so memorable. But he comes out of the water
for good reasons. Hey,
and it comes out of the water, and he's got this black hair dye just dripping.
I'm gonna
down
have
his
to
face.
look back because now I'm intrigued by that.
I didn't understand that at all, and I'm like, this is stupid.
Well, keep your notes. Keep your notes handy. By the way, guys, please feel free to hit that like button while you are in here enjoying. Lets us know you're enjoying the show and you appreciate what we're doing. We appreciate you for being here. Dan, get your notes ready.
Okay.
What is your allegory for this, beautiful film?
Gosh,
Hey, Ryan.
I didn't have much, but of course, you have the the almost redemption. I don't know. Is there one? I mean, you have the almost redemption with the friendship of Hook and Pan, I guess, but at the same time, at the end of the movie, it was like, are they really friends? Are they not friends? Is he coming back to help Hook? Is he not coming back to help? What is going on?
There is a modern colloquialism for this type of relationship. It's known as frenemies.
Oh, I was going to say narcissism.
Frenemies. Captain Hook and Peter Pan are frenemies in this movie.
Right. So they have to be enemies or something. I don't know.
No, they're enemies, but they're like mutual enemies. Like they have an understanding.
Right.
They
an understanding that they have to fight every day or something.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know.
Not enough to kill anybody, except for chop off somebody's hand, slash a child across the chest.
Did you see that one part when in the beginning he's knocking on the door? Hi, Mom. And he goes, Hook, he's here. It's Peter Pan, and then Hook shoots through the door. It hits the guy. He falls down, and when Hook walks on the door and he walks through, the guy's kind of like smiling and moving around. Going,
I was surprised about that. Again, this movie doesn't make it like it says like, okay, so we're gonna get grittier. He literally shoots this dude, walks over top of him with a crocodile, eats somebody in front of the kids. Like, right. I'm confused.
Yeah, this movie was, I don't know what it was.
But your allegory, Dan.
And let's see here. Wendy was confused too, wasn't she? She didn't know what she wanted to be too.
That's because she's a 12-year-old girl. Of course she doesn't know what she wants. But she's the hero that saves them all, doesn't she? It wasn't Peter that rescued everybody. It was Tinkerbell, Tiger Lily, and Wendy.
Right.
Girl power.
Strange movie. Anyways, not because the girl power thing. I don't care who saved the day or who didn't save the day.
Well, but it's misleading because Peter's supposed to be some kind of hero.
Right. I mean, he kind of came back as a partial hero thing, but it was like, but he couldn't fly or whatever, and then he was like, whoa.
It's because he realized that it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah. What part was funny and sad at the same time? It was like when Peter was trying to hold on to James, and he goes, all you got to do is think a happy thought. And he looks back. He's like, Peter, I don't have a happy thought. And he falls, I mean? I can't think of it. It was kind of funny
and kind of sad at the same time.
Yeah, it was funny and sad, It was like, I don't have one. And it's like, huh? You can't even just be like, oh, my friendship was happy for me. I don't know.
No, because his friend ended up betraying him, cutting off his hand, and exiling from the island because he missed his mother.
Right. I don't know. So I guess an allegory for me would be none. I don't care. Just don't be a jerk. How about that? Don't be a jerk to your friends if they miss their mommy.
So I approach this movie differently than I have with other movies before, where I was looking for an allegory that I could see in this movie. Versus that's typically how I do when we look for our movie or we look and watch our movies. I look for an allegory. I take a snippet and I try to Bible-licious it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd like to Jesus it up a bit. But
Yeah,
this
like
time it hit me a little differently because I was looking for the allegory, found something, but much like the rest of this movie, it was a little bit discombobulated. And I thought, no, let me look at what is this movie trying to tell people? Right? Because allegories are not just something that we assume. Every story is supposed to have some form of an allegory in it to mean whatever, good versus evil, all that kind of stuff. But it's interesting because I was looking, as I was writing down the allegory that I was kind of interpreting and seeing, I realized that that's not at all what they were really trying to portray in this movie. So I wrote down, Wendy could have had influence of being a young, nurturing lady, but they decided not to. So Wendy is in this transition of trying to be between staying a child and growing up. But they don't really make that a big part of this movie. They almost like they did in the beginning. She's a juvenile that doesn't want to grow up. Then she has this mom moment, right? This older sister moment when she's with the lost indigenous people. And suddenly her heart goes out to them and her instincts flare up of like what her mom had said, right? You would be the leader. You would influence your brothers to be better people. And she's like, how would I do that? And, you know, she goes through all that. So in that moment, when she's singing her lullaby, we see this moment of Wendy deciding to kind of grow up. But then it kind of just shifts and gets weird. Like there, even in this movie, is really no allegory that they were trying to tell you. Because even with Peter and his redemption story, at the end of it, it really wasn't. He just kind of looks at him. It's almost like the difference between being apologetic for something versus repenting of something. Peter really was just apologetic for what had happened. He really wasn't sorry and ashamed of what he had done. It was more like, sorry, Hook. Sorry, your life sucks. All right, let's go get some fries. Like, that was it. So I find it interesting that this time, this movie didn't have an allegory for itself. And so for that reason, I give it a 0 too, because it could have had a really beautiful allegory, but it chose not to.
So here's my allegory.
You can't change places.
I'm just going to say this. Don't be a 50-year-old. Go peeping through people's windows, especially little girls' windows, and and stalking them, because that's
just good life advice. It's technically the law. So so in the book too, apparently it seems that Peter never grew up even mentally. He still retained a lot of innocency as a child, but also the temperament of one as well. Like they say he was pretty mean in the book. And like, for example, the lost boys the lost indigenous people at the end, it seems kind of weird that so this is where they cherry picked from the book, is that in the book, the lost boys actually go back with the Darlings, and the parents discover the kids and adopt them. Of course, in this movie, it's just like you've just dropped a whole bunch of ratty little kids off.
They kept asking, where'd you come from?
But Peter was not happy about it. In fact, he tried to convince them to stay and was upset that they had all decided to basically abandon him. So.
Right, but then Wendy's like, well, why don't you stay? Why are you leaving? You know? And he was like, well, because I need to. I don't want to.
It says that apparently Peter gives up on his plan when he enters into the room to find Mrs. Darling sleeping by the window with her face overcome by sadness. And this isn't like the Chronicles of Narnia, where they went to Neverland and then came home the same day while their parents were at the opera or whatever. This actually happened over the course of a couple of days, and their parents were so grieved by the missing children. And I think that's probably in the story what changed Peter's heart.
Gotcha.
But so Dan, if you got any last thoughts before I tally up some points?
I don't know. I think I hit everything.
Okay.
Let me see here. Camera angles suck. Disappointing movie. Maybe one day we can do that. Yeah, I don't know. Dustin Hoffman, Robin Williams, the movie Hook is a better movie. That's my last thoughts. Yeah. Something I did like. I guess I could say this part. Something I did like is the no, never mind. I already
He's like,
said it.
no,
I already said
I don't
it.
like it.
I already said everything.
I will summarize that this was not. I know I said a lot of passionate negative things about this movie. I think because I see the potential of this movie as why I don't see it as the worst film that Disney has produced. It definitely needs a lot of help. But this is actually a movie that, the big question is, Dan, would you watch this again?
Probably not. Not unless they come out with a sequel, and then I would have to watch it again.
But then you would have to.
Just to get my memory going, like, okay, because they kind of ended it almost as if there would be a sequel.
Well, that's where Hook comes in. So as much as I harped on this movie, it had enough intrigue for me and enough interest in some of the characters like Tiger Lily and stuff like that, that I would watch this again. Not anytime soon, but I would watch this like once, twice a year, maybe to fall asleep to. Not saying that in a mean way, but I mean, like, just have it on. It doesn't irritate me so badly that let me put it this way. It doesn't irritate me so badly that I wouldn't watch it again. Now, I think one of the big elephants in the room that we did not discuss, which is totally fine and actually goes with what I have to say, is the race swapping, which was a big ordeal. You know what? When I was watching this movie, of course I thought about that because it's been everywhere. It's everybody's face. I had really no problem. If you think about it, I really had no problem with the fact that we have Black Tinkerbell. We've got like Pakistani Peter Pan, because they could be exotic characters because they lived in a forbidden place or whatever like that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the big problem that a lot of people have is the fact that it's all about a big push. If this movie would have been made in the 80s, even with the changing of the Lost Boys and with having Lost Girls and all of these other elements, I don't think anybody would have cared, because
No, I don't think so.
I don't think anybody would have cared.
Right, but since it's like a woke push thingy that they're
and
doing,
that is the big difference.
what
Isn't that sad?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and plus in the 80s, they probably would have written it better too. So it
well,
would have been like
exactly. They definitely would have written it better. And I don't think anybody would have cared that Tinkerbell was black and that Peter Pan was not Western European. Like,
Right.
I don't think anybody would have cared.
Right.
But so, Dan, if you want to tell people the thing, well, I tally up the few points that we have. You got to be quick, Dan, because this is going to be like quick adding right here.
Okay. Oh, yeah. By the way, everybody, we didn't even do a commercial break. If you love what we do here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ding the bell, and vanquish the like button, because all that stuff helps us with the algorithms. We're almost at 4,000 watch hours. We want to hit that 4,000 watch hours so we get monetized, so we can get 50 cents a month. It would be nice. And what else?
For the children.
For the children. Of course, if you really enjoy what we do here, don't forget that we do have a Patreon page. You can support us there. You can also support us by buying merchandise, kind of like this beautiful neck gaiter that I got. It's actually, I call it a do-rag because it does a lot of stuff, not just neck gaitering stuff.
Nice.
Like it holds, like when I had long hair, it held my hair back. When
you can
you're
put a Pepsi can in there, right? When it's around your neck.
Let's see here. Put a cup.
There you go. If you don't have cleavage, you get yourself a neck gaiter.
That's right. What else? When you're working on construction work, you can use it as a face mask so you don't get the dust in your nose. Obviously. And
it's a need.
It's a good
it meets
scarf.
all your needs.
Yeah, that's right. It's a good scarf in the wintertime, Anyways, we got a whole bunch of other stuff. Everything's in the description down below. You know where to go. You know how this thing works. It's YouTube. And I've been hearing a lot of push for Rumble. We do have a Rumble page, just so everybody knows. Just in case YouTube decides to go weird,
Bonkers.
or weirder than what it already is, and you know, just to let everybody know, we
Just follow
do have
us on all the socials. Why
That's
not?
it.
You follow
That's it.
everybody else. Follow us too.
That's it. You like celebrities? Well, do what you do with celebrities with us. Follow us. And that's I guess about it.
That's
there we go.
about it. So, Dan,
Yeah.
of 10 possible points that this movie could have gotten, which of course it did not, how many points do you think this movie got?
Let's see here. I think you gave it points, right? So 4 points, 2 points. I don't know. I know I didn't give any points, so
That's
I don't
not
remember.
true. You gave a half a point for music.
Oh, I did. Okay. So 4 points.
2 out of 10.
That sounds right.
about
That
right.
sounds right. I know GilkMan liked this movie. GilkMan-
I'm with GilkMan that there are moments of this movie that I really
There's moments.
enjoyed.
Yes, moments.
If I'm gonna nitpick this movie apart, then this show is what I come up with. But if I was gonna, I loved I really did. I sincerely loved the potential that this movie had. I really do. I like where it could have gone. And I think that's why I could watch this again, because in my mind, I could just kind of carry on. But overall, a very badly produced film.
So anyways, guys, you watch this movie. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. Tell us what you think of the movie down below in the comments section, and let us know what you thought of this movie. I know a couple of you guys in the live chat said you already saw it, but I just want to know what other people
Tell
thought.
us where we're wrong. I dare you. Tell us in the comment section when this show is over. Tell us where we're
He
wrong.
told me I was wrong, and that's okay. I can take criticisms and stuff. So it's just one opinion.
It's okay
to another.
to have different opinions.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. If you did like the movie, let us know. If you didn't like it, let us know. And that's
All
that.
she wrote. Yeah.
Remember this, everybody. Remember. I like that little clip. I'm gonna have to use it for more stuff now. Whenever you see member berries and stuff, that'd be fun. Remember this? And by the way, if no one's ever seen Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome with Mel Gibson, that's a great movie. Watch it. Jeez. Get with the times here. That's it. Okay, bye, everybody.
Remember this? Remember this? Remember this? Remember this?